Let's do it then, Bio. In the top right side, you are showing us the beautiful main base of the man that is representing Invictus Gaming. He's been around for a long time. I think he's a damn solid macro-oriented Terran, and I would give him the edge here, actually. I think he comes in as a minor favorite. Invictus Gaming's XY.
And the bottom left in the blue, he went for a 12 pool, or excuse me, an early pool, not quite a 12 pool. The man of madness, at least the Zerg version, for Team Gozu, MeomaikA.
The 12 pool would have been very wild. Like, we know the 12 pool is pretty solid, even as a macro build against Protoss, but against the Terran, I don't see it very often, and that would have been very committed. Now, Meo going pool first with a gas that goes down at 113, so the gas is not ultra early, that's pretty standard, even for the hedge first builds. If anything, it's a few seconds later than we often see it, but this could just lead into a couple of early roaches, right? If I think of MeomaikA in this matchup, you mentioned yesterday someone similar like Bly, and I think that was a very good comparison, because I just feel that these guys, they're always going to struggle a little bit more in TVZ than they are in the other matchups, or ZVT from their perspective, just because it's so hard to cheese a Terran, right? The standard Terran openings in general are very safe, unless they just don't scout at all and they don't see something happening until it shows up at their front door. But most of the time, Terran has a couple of quick early units moving around the map that can give them the heads up. So then you're kind of forced to play standard. But if that's not your cup of tea, that obviously means that this matchup is going to be more difficult than the other two.
Yeah, and part of the problem, of course, is the standard Terran opener, right? You're going to get a barracks, a factory, a starport. They give you so many early, powerful defensive tools, Banshees and Cyclones and things that kind of directly counter a lot of Zerg aggression. Yes, you can go for it, and if you're, say, Dark, for example, you're maybe dropping a proxy hatch in this matchup. That being said, and by the way, I do apologize for the little bit of stuttering we're seeing right now. Apparently, my connection to Singapore is not as nice as it would like to be, but it's not affecting the players, so we're okay there. But anyway, you have these openers, you have Cyclones, you have Banshees, you have these things that they kill roaches. I mean, they annihilate them. So if you're going to do something like that, you have to hope that A, the Terran player is playing greedy and maybe doing something a bit interesting. And honestly, Roddy, even if we're looking at a 3CC play, from the perspective of a roach timing, that's not all that greedy because you will have a starport done and you will likely have a tech lab on it. So Banshee's a pretty common follow-up here. And even the 3CC play doesn't necessarily enable any sort of early roach aggression.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's why I don't think it would be very wise of Meo to go for that. Maybe if he's got one special aggressive build that he believes in, let's do it on a Babylon or something, right? That's already a very difficult map. I think Meo's going to have to play straight up here. What is funny, by the way, is that we kick things off with a TVZ, because today I really hope that you guys at home like the aliens, because we're going to have a whole bunch of games with Protoss and not too many Zergs and Terrans. There will be a couple. But today is basically National Protoss Day, as we do have the lair on the way and the Roach Warren going down on the side of MeomaikA. If I see Meo build a Roach Warren and a somewhat quick lair, I immediately start thinking Queen, Ling, Roach, Nidus, but obviously that does not have to be the play. He can just go for some sort of a nice 1-1 Roach timing or a lot of Roaches and Ravages down the line.
Yeah, certainly. But if this is going to be Nidus play, he has kept both of his Overlords alive. He's got one on the left side. That's not the Nidus Overlord, but he's got one outside of the main base that he can kind of squeak in on the right side. And I was about to say that XY does not have vision on the right side of his base, but he's moved a couple Marines over there now, so that's fine. But there we go. Roaches now starting to get made, but there is actually no wall in the natural, so the Lings, they're going to get a little bit of something here. Get one SCV, nice scout. See that there are 4 Hellions on the map, and you know, Roddy, that shouldn't surprise anyone all that much, but it is just nice confirmation. Okay, my opponent's not doing some sort of weird 2-on-1 out of this. You know, you might even expect them to be moving out on the map at this point, depending on what version of the 2-1-1 that is. But XY's not doing that. He is he's at least shown, not his entire hand, but he's shown the Jack of Clubs out of his hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit confused by the amount of units that MeomaikA made right now, as the Roaches are just going to be greeted by the Banshee in the center of the map. The Lings were way ahead of the rest of the pack, and they're obviously not going to get a whole lot done. If Meo wants to scare his opponent here, I'm sure that he's putting a little bit of fear into him, but this is really just not going to get a whole lot done. XY clearly is playing the player here. He's not playing the same way as I think he would play against any other Zerg. He has played very safe with the Zerglings. Maybe he's done some analysis. I think think back of some of the games I recently casted of MeomaikA against Baby Marine, where Baby Marine just kept moving out with the first few units, and Meo just had run by after run by, completely destroying his economy. But you can see that if that doesn't happen and we are not able to get the damage done, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult. Now, Meo has done a good job in droning up, though. I want to give him kudos for that. That is not the place that I would recommend any Zerg to build the evolution chambers, but who am I, Meo?
Jean Valjean? Rotterdam? Not Meo, though. That is for sure. I don't know that anyone is Meo other than Meo, as he builds a bunch of Hydras here. We do have Overseers, so these Banshees actually, they did a great job defensively, but they will get taken down now. So XY loses out on some of his map control. But Roddy, before he gets upgrades, is this going to be double attack upgrades, which I would never consider right against Bioterran, but it is me. Okay, never mind. He's not going to go that weird. It's going to be Carapace. It's going to be ranged upgrades most likely. And this is Meo, in part, just getting really quickly into Hydraling Bane-ish. Except, actually, I'm sorry, there's no Baneling Nest. So, Hydraling. There we go.
Well, Roach Hydra, maybe? Like Roach Ling Hydra? It's a little bit confusing, but that's kind of what we expected from MeomaikA. What I do think he was really hoping for, though, is XY to just go for certain early move-outs with not too many units, right? I feel like that is always what these Zergs hope for, where they can just kind of overrun the Terran, because the Terran is making a push that is great against the greedy Zerg, but not so great against the Zerg that makes a lot of battle units early on. Well, XY is playing very passive, very defensive, but I really don't hate it, as we have a couple of Hellions just making it into a middle line. The units were a little bit out of position. There is no drone pool, and I guess we can sort of get away with that, right? As only 5 drones have gone down in the end. That wasn't too bad. Well done by Meo. That doesn't change the fact that I think he's in trouble, man. Like, I want to see where this goes. Do we drop an infestation pit? Okay, now we drop a Baneling Nest already. Because we can't just make a couple of Roaches and Hydras and expect to defeat a Terran that's above 150 supply with 1/1 bio and tank, right?
I mean, I guess this is safety Hydras. I don't really know. Again, this is just a weird... It seems like this is just a weird way to get into Hydraling Bane. You know, you get some safety Roaches, you put pressure on. Maybe MeomaikA is playing to his reputation, right? He ran those Lings and Roaches across the map. He did force XY to stay home. I mean, look at what XY is doing right now. He is really turtled up here. He's got his Banshee, tries to find his way. He gets a couple drones. Very nice. The Overseer is a little bit trailing behind. He is so turtled up here. He had 2 bunkers in the natural. He kept one of them. He's got all these supply depots outside of his tanks. He does not want to die here. And in doing so, technically, this unlocks so much for MeomaikA. He can get up to 7 bases if he wants. He has everything that he could really possibly want here. So if he plays like that, I would love to see him drop an infestation pit, you know, just go into Hive, advance this tech, and say, yeah, you know, I have given you all the room in the world, XY, and I'm just going to take even more.
Well, he needs to do that, because if we're waiting for Baneling speed, this is going to be a pretty damn late Baneling speed, right? It's not even that we have two upgrades already or something. It's going to be Baneling speed finishing up around minute 10. I mean, of course, Meo is still going to have a lot of units, and Hydraling Bane, especially on creep, can definitely get the job done, but I mean, if anybody was wondering if XY does his homework, if he's ready to play against different players, I think this game is the absolute definite answer to that question. And the answer is 100% yes. He is playing ultra defensive just because he knows that Meo is the kind of Zerg who builds so many units that in a weird way they do damage to themselves. So it's really not up to XY to deal damage, even though he found some damage right with that one Banshee, and the Hellions found a little bit. But XY knows all I need to do is get very close to maxing out, and if I max out, I should have a better army than you. And I really love the gameplay so far from XY, and I think Meo's just unhappy in this game. Even if he's got 200 supply, both players closing in on maxing out right now, I can't imagine that Meo's very happy. Maybe he can get a big fight right before the Planetary Fortress is done. I think that's the best chance that Meo's gonna have. But that's a lot of tanks. A lot of the tanks are on siege, so here we go, Bio.
All right, so the Lings Banes are going to come in on the right side. They get decent connections here at the start of the Planetary. Well, they just have to run around it right now. And the tanks, you said that we're unsieged. Well, they're sieged now, so the Marines, they're going to run forward. And yeah, you know, maybe the best possible fight that Meo could have looked for. But just because it's the best possible fight he could have looked for, Roddy, does not make it a good fight. And XY, he loses 13 SCVs, but I mean, he's still right around where the Zerg's economy is. He's very happy with that.
Yeah, now that was literally the best thing that Meo could have ever hoped for. It was right before the Planetary was done. we basically launched our units off creep. A lot of the Marines were very far towards the right side, and 3 out of the 6 or 7 tanks were on siege. And it was still a close fight, and I would still favor XY. I think the second fight is going to be a whole lot less successful, even though MeomaikA is going to try a couple of banelings right into the planetary, but I don't think he's getting this planetary. And these attacks are so freaking expensive as a Zerg. And it's not that Mio is sitting on 10k, right? And he can do this all day, every day. After 2 fights, Mio, we have now lost 5,500 resources more on the side of MeomaikA than we have on the side of XY. And XY is just like, cool. Literally everything is going to plan. He's becoming like the Goldfinger guy right now. I love it when the plan comes together. He's not doing a whole lot, but he's making all the correct choices.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, by the way, as well, that planetary could have gone down, but XY, he put he put 5 SCVs in the planetary, popped it on the other side away from the banelings to make sure he could maintain his repair, which, you know, it's we're starting to see this more and more. It's I'm not going to say it's a new micro mechanic, but we're starting to see Terrans kind of use it just a little bit more, and it's super cool to see. So he keeps everything alive. He establishes his position even more. He has plenty of scans already. I would love to see him just... There is one highway of creep that MeomaikA has. He does not have expansive creep spread. He cannot even connect his 4th base to his 5th, but he does have this highway, and one scan, you would get 2 or 3 creep tumors. It would knock down MeomaikA's position on this map so far and just prevent the attack from happening. You talk about kind of sitting on the edge of creep and springboarding forward. Well, knock down these 2 creep tumors, and MeomaikA won't have that springboard anymore.
That's why it's just chilling, man. He's like, all right, you want to attack me again? Go ahead and be my guest. It's only going to get harder and harder from here on out. And if you don't attack, well, then I'll attack you once I'm maxed out and I've got the 3-3 upgrades. That's just what it is. Mio does not have an infestation pit, does not have a hive. He's going to go for it again. Biomob, I'm going to close my eyes this time around, because this right here is going to be the Zerg meat grinder. Maybe that PF dies, but in just no universe will this be a great fight for MeomaikA.
I mean, he does get the PF, but it's 3 SCVs, and with the amount of command centers, the amount of just bases that that XY has to replace 3 SCVs and a planetary is not worth it. Not for your entire army. And yeah, the scary thing is looking at the battle report. It's actually, you know, it's not as bad as it it's not as bad as it actually is, or right? It's the bars are somewhat equal. But
he lost 3.5 or 4k again more. This is a nice little wrong by the way, by MeomaikA. But once more, MeomaikA lost 3,000 to 4,000 resources more there than his opponent. He's not outmining his opponent. If anything, XY is going to be the one outmining MeomaikA. And don't forget that we are still looking at Lair Tech Zerg. I mean, I've casted Pulled against Jaedong a few too many times in my days when I was still a young boy, full of life, to know that Lair Tech Zerg is not going to deal very well with 3-3 bio. Mio, I guess, knows that too, so he finally does fire up the hive, but it's going to take him so damn long to catch up in upgrades. And just get an army out that's better than the army of XY. I think all XY really needs to do is just hold down the Marine button, and then he can start moving out, and he's just going to get more great trades across the board. This is a little bit risky as we're awfully close to a whole bunch of Hydras. But yeah, I am afraid that this game is close to over. Even if MeomaikA has a bunch of bases, he has a decent supply. It just does not feel like this is ever going to be a fair fight. Mio needs XY to mess up, right? I don't believe that Mio can force a win, but what he can hope for is that XY does something terrible and gives MeomaikA a great opportunity to have some amazing Baneling connections. But so far, the Terran Micro has just been very clean in this game.
It really has. And this choke is just, it's so hard for MeomaikA to try to clear it out. I mean, there are so many tanks and Liberators. The Banelings have already almost been knocked out. Lings are going to come in from the backside, though, and there really is not a lot defending the tanks. So MeomaikA's best opportunity, he knocks down the tanks. The Liberators will eventually get dealt with. And MeomaikA hold positions on top of the army. I don't know that that was necessarily the play, but he's trying. I mean, it does mean, I guess, that if there were any Buddha mines, he could split against it, but there are no Buddha mines. It's just tanks, and that just makes it a little bit easier for this army of XY to kill everything.
I was like, did I not wake up yet? Like, what is this fight? I've never seen a fight like this. I've never seen Lings interact with Marines and Marauders the way they just did. Mio is battling, he is trying, and there are 2 Hydras right now chipping away at the Liberators. There at least 1 Liberator dies. Has fired up Adrenal Glands, and +3 melee, and +3 carapace. But to quote my good friend Mr. Bitter, I'm afraid it's a day late and $1 short, BO, because XY's supply lead is big, and XY is obviously not going to stop attacking anytime soon.
No, it's $100 short, Roddy, at this point. Mio's idea, I guess, was to build this big army and have his opponent attack into him. But if you're XY, you're right, and he did his prep. He's aware of how Mio wants to play. He wants to be this aggressive Zerg, so he just never attacked. And unfortunately for MeomaikA, that's kind of the thing that counters what he did. You remember Beastie QD, right? He did the no attacking to Grandmaster. Well, that's kind of what XY did. It's no attacking to a game 1 victory. And now...
Yep. Now, I am very excited for Game 2, though, Bio, because MeomaikA is obviously a good Zerg. And sometimes, you know, the games can look a bit silly because things just don't go according to his 200 IQ big brain game plan. And now I do hope that he capitalizes on this and that he realizes an adjustment is necessary. XY is clearly not the same Terran that will attack into him with tiny armies, 1 tank, 10 Marines, 2 medevacs and stuff like that. No, XY is not doing that kind of stuff. He's even very passive with his Hellions. So I want MeomaikA to completely flip the script. Let's go ahead and channel our inner greedy boy, and then we can always still be crazy Mio in game 3, but we cannot do the exact same thing as we just did because XY, his scouting was decent, right? First with the Reaper, he was safe with the Hellions, but he still scouted a little bit, and then he also scouted with the Banshee through the center of the map. Like, Mio cannot make that many units and not find any success, because if that happens, this game will just be played all over again. And yeah, it's like the supplies look somewhat promising. That's a lot of Zerg, but with those upgrades, those unit comps clashing one another, as a Zerg, you're just not going to win that. Not off creep.
Not at all. As we move on to Korea for map number 2. Map 1 was Singapore. That was, of course, for Mio, right? And then we're going to move into XY. It's going to be MeomaikA's map pick, or excuse me, we're going to move on to Gressfon, MeomaikA's map pick, XY's server pick. And it's a bit surprising, given everything that we've seen, to see MeomaikA choose Gressfon as his map.
I think he loves it for the run-bys. I think back once more of the WTL match we had where we played against MeomaikA's team with Team Roddy, the young kids that I support a little bit and trying to get them started in esports. And the final game, the ace match, was Gressfon, was MeomaikA against Baby Marine. And for the people who are not that familiar with Baby Marine, the younger brother of Raynor, 6,000 MMR Terran player. And Mio just had run-by after run-by after run-by. Like, every time Baby Marine moved out with the Hellions, Link showed up in his natural. So from that as a perspective, I can be like, I understand why Mio likes this map, because there is indeed a lot of different ways that he can send a couple links to the top side of the map or the bottom side of the map and then run them into a third or the natural. But based on what we just saw, XY is just not moving out, and I really don't hate it, man. I can't fault the man for it at all. If I was a coach and I was the coach of XY coming into this series, I'd be like, hey, man, whatever you do, game 1, get a good economy, make it up to Marines and tanks, and just sit at home. Do not take any damage. Do not move out. That's what I would tell him, and that's what he did. I think it was a great game plan by XY. But now I want to see if Mio can make the adjustments. We know he's good. He's a high-level player. I want to see him surprise us here.
Yeah, that'd be very nice. Maybe just play greedy off your idea. He almost did that in game 1, but not quite enough. In game 2, it's ready. It's Gressfon. It's a big map. Are the run-bys going to do what they have to do? Or does XY move on pretty easily with a 2-0? It's game 2. And to the bottom right, in the blue, he's down a game. Not quite greedy enough, maybe, in that first one. It's MeomaikA.
Tournament live on the line for that man, our happy, lovely Zerg from Vietnam. We love him, we love to cheer for him, but he is struggling with this man in the top left side. The only player, I believe, to have a 10 in mentality when it comes to the WTL Code S rankings. He is representing Invictus Gaming. It's XY.
You know, Roddy, though, that's probably only because we haven't seen your power card yet.
I think that's a good thing, mate. I feel like you guys are going to banter me until the dawn of days if you guys see my power ranking. I'm probably going to be the lowest ranked player in the entire tournament. They're going to give me like a 27. They're like, that's your age, right? I was like, sure, I'll take that.
Hey, it's just, look, I really have to apologize then for not being on Basilisk anymore, because I can't lay claim to the lowest power card. So, sorry, Roddy. You know, I did what I could. But yeah. I guess that's just the cross that you'll have to bear.
At the moment, I'm doing whatever I can to make sure that the boys are always available. Trigger, Raynor, Cyril, I was like, anything you guys need, okay? Hey, that's an early Roach one. Sweet baby Jesus. So instead of being ultra greedy, Mio's like, yeah, I could do that. Or I could just be way more aggressive. Because the last game, yeah, I made some units, but I didn't make the amount of units with the intention to win the game. I made units to catch my opponent off guard and get myself in a good economic spot. When we are building a Roach Warren this freaking early, BO, we're basically trying to win the game.
Yeah, pretty much. The downside, of course, with what XY is doing is he did not SCV scout. He's going for a Reaper scout, and that will eventually see what's happening, but the Lings will get their way onto the other side very quickly. And the question now, at the start of this, is how many Marines does XY make before he drops that reactor? For now, it looks like it's going to be 2, which is maybe 1 more than you might otherwise do. Is now the Reaper is going to see that, yes, okay, this hatch is late. The creep is spreading a little bit slowly, but can it find its way behind the mineral line? Answer is going to be yes. So he's going to see the roaches pop out anyways, even if he doesn't see the Roach Warren. And now XY, well, the SCVs have already been pulled. Lings don't really get that much just yet. And XY's committing really hard to this command center right now. He thinks he can hold the low ground in general. Those bunkers might be a little bit iffy, but he wants to make sure he gets his command center done before the roaches run across so he can just pull it up back into the main. But Roddy, these bunkers, maybe that's a little...
I don't hate it because the factory is finishing up as well. We're working on attack lab. I feel like if you make 2 bunkers, like 1 bunker, I think is a bit silly because that's going to be too easy for Mio to just power through. I think double bunker is acceptable with the way that everything is going up besides the main base. The Reaper is still alive as well. Obviously, as long as he produces non-stop SCVs, it's okay to lose a lot of SCVs as well. And I was really wondering, what's it going to be? Is it going to be a tank or a cyclone? I was like, nah, silly question. He's going to go tank, but he will not go tank. Well, okay, he will go tank. He built a cyclone, but he changed the cyclone into a tank because it's a couple of roaches and a lot of Lings as a follow-up. What do you make of it, Bio?
Yeah, I think the cyclone is fantastic if it's the 5 roach into cyclone idea, right? Just the I'm pressuring, I'm going to back up maybe a little bit. And in fairness, a 19 drone roach doesn't tend to back up all that much. But regardless, if it's roach heavy, you go cyclones. They can just kite it out. They're really, really good. But Mio actually... he's kind of baited this out a little bit, and I still do like the tank, by the way, because he is pumping Lings behind this. But he was massively supply blocked at 36. He needed that Overlord. He was not producing anything for quite a while. So we didn't see anything on the follow-up. XY didn't see all that much. He just saw the roaches, so thought it was non-committals. Now, on top of things, the tank gets a couple good shots off, and the Lings, they're just not going to bust this bunker down. Couple Lings get on top of the tank, but that is just going to be the extent of it here. Even if the bunkers go down at this point, the Ling countered. Actually, well, more Lings. Nah, this is not going to work out at all. Lings, they're going to get on top of this last bunker. The mule repair is good. He's going to drop another one. And actually, the Marines, they're going to clean this up, or at least get enough that it does not matter. 3 Lings remain. 11 SCVs go down, and you give up to the main. You know, Roddy, I don't think this was worth it for Mio.
Absolutely not. There was a Reaper as well in the natural on the other side of the map. It saw that there are just no drones there at all. So it's also not like XY is going to make a panic misread now where he's going to try to take the low ground too quickly and lose his final tanks and take even more damage. He knew exactly what was up. And I actually think one thing that XY could have done a tiny bit better, but I'm not going to be too critical because I think he's playing a great best of 3, is maybe grab a few more SCVs from the main and already send them to the low ground, right? If we put our tank on the low ground and we have the 2 bunkers that we really care about, we don't only want to have like 6 or 7 SCVs to repair. We want to have the ability to have 10, 12 SCVs to repair at the same time. And obviously that final mule trying to keep that 1 bunker alive, it was a little bit ambitious, but it doesn't change the fact that our Chinese Terran is in a very good spot. He's floating over the 3rd orbital even. Okay, I think that's maybe a little bit much. It's going to be hard to keep those SCVs or mules safe on that one. As Mio is just kind of doubling down, right? He's making more Lings, more roaches. It's just like, all right, I know that was not good enough. I need more, and I'm going to go ahead and try to find more. This is like, how does he ever get up the main base? It can only ever work if XY lowers the depots and lets the Lings get in and lets the Lings get on top of the tanks. But that just seems like a mistake that XY is never supposed to make.
Yeah, XY just has no intention of moving on the map anytime soon. I mean, he's going to lose some Marines. That's fine. And I do like what he's baiting out here, right? By setting in a couple Lings, making it look like, oh, you know, I've been droning behind this. This is just harassment Lings. But there's a lot of stuff on that left side. But XY is going battle cruisers. He has the fusion core done. And 3cc BC against a 2 base all in. with a bunch of roaches or a bunch of ravagers, a bunch of lings, that might be a little bit too out there, Ronnie.
Yeah, XY is going to see it right now. The high ground vision for MeomaikA is very important because there are a couple of Ravagers in the mix. The Ravagers will be able to get one tank, I believe, rather quickly. Yep, one tank does fall. If he gets the second one too, XY should really get a couple of SCVs here to repair. I obviously think XY will always be fine. That's an awfully low HP tank, but there was no more high ground vision, and high ground vision disappeared after the second Overlord died. There were no lings on top of the ramp either. XY does lose 14 SCVs. That hurts, but he's still in a really, really, really good economic spot because we're looking at 31 SCVs against 28 drones, and of course, it's triple orbital.
Yeah, I still think that XY is being far too greedy here. I mean, just take your natural, don't take your third base at the same time. Don't go battle cruisers, just build units, defend. But XY clearly is trying to style on MeomaikA at this point, and realistically, I still think XY is in a great spot. Like, don't get me wrong, but that if he keeps losing SCVs like this, that might be his downfall. If you can only mount out of one base, having four CCs is Roddy.
Oh my god!
It's a 1-1-1 VC opening with four orbitals. I mean,
yeah,
there's such a thing as being a little bit too greedy here.
Well, it's not even that he's like too greedy, but it's maybe making life harder on yourself than it has to be. Because to your point, BO, how would this game have looked if XY would have just, after the 2 tanks, built a couple of Hellions, right? And then we have Hellions to deal with the Zerglings, we have tanks to deal with Roaches and Ravages. Well, then obviously MeomaikA's in all sorts of trouble. He's still in all sorts of trouble as the first battlecruiser is out, is gonna jump to the other side of the map. There are 3 queens, that's not a fight that 3 queens can ever win. As the battlecruiser teleports right on top of the spire. GG gets called. XY with 4 orbitals in a 9-minute